My friends, I'm back with a video that I think is really gonna help you out and make you feel good, which is very important. Things that are gonna actually help you improve your life. But first, often I like to start out with either something funny or something interesting. And when I woke up this morning, my wife, she was hungry, she's breastfeeding, and she's hungry. She's a little woman, petite woman, but she's hungry all the time, but especially breastfeeding. So I volunteer to go to 7-Eleven and get her some sandwiches or something to eat. Now, we were supposed to have a meeting today, but it's canceled because there's very bad storms outside. But I was going to go out while it's not raining, even though it's very windy and very ugly outside. So I went out, and I have to walk through the parking lot and then cross the street to 7-Eleven. And as I walk through the parking lot, on the ground, I see a pair of panties. And I'm thinking, well, there's panties in front of this parked car. Well, of course, you got to look at the car. What kind of car is this panty dropper? Is that is that my car? Is that my Trans Am? Okay, if you want to see what car I drive, let's take a look. Here you go. This is my car. Was it a Trans Am like what I drive? If you've seen the show Knight Rider from the 80s, this is essentially, looks very similar, same type of car. I'm even dressed like it's the 80s here in this photo, which adds to it a little bit. But this is my car. Is it my Trans Am that was the panty dropper? Well, no, because my car's not here. Let's take a look at the car that had the pair of panties lying in front of it. It was this. I look up and the brand is Jack, J-A-C. And I'm thinking, I've never heard of that car. What the heck kind of car is that? So I had to look it up on the internet. And this is basically what it was. It was orange like this, kind of like halfway station wagon, halfway's SUV. And apparently it's a Chinese car company. But this is exactly what the car looked like. Orange like this. Interesting enough, the pair of panties that were lying in front of the car, they were almost the same color as the car. So I thought that was kind of funny. Of course, I've mentioned before that where I live, they're dealing with mass immigration, mass migration from China. And my wife, she actually, because we have these Chinese people that live across the hall from us, and if you know anything about Chinese people, you know they love to smoke cigarettes. And they smoke, even though it's not allowed where I live, in the building where I live, to smoke inside, even inside your unit. They do it anyways. And these cigarettes, one of the guards working here, he suggested that maybe they're smoking a different kind of cigarettes that are much stronger than normal cigarettes, because the smell, even with the doors closed, it permeates the entire hallway. It even goes with our door closed into our unit, and it smells up our unit full of cigarette smoke. And my wife is very concerned, of course, because we have a baby. But we have all this in the past few months where I live. They're dealing with mass migration from China and all the various issues associated with that. And this morning I was telling my wife about that story about the car and such. And I said to my son, who she was feeding squash, I said, "Are you going to have a Chinese girlfriend someday?" And my wife goes, "No." But my son goes, he gives me this look. He gives me this sly smile that was so cute, so adorable. Of course, he doesn't really understand what I'm saying or what I'm talking about. But I just thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share that with you. Now, to the main point. In yesterday's video, I knew, and I said even in the video, this is going to be a very controversial video, because anytime you give people the truth, a hard truth, it's going to upset people. So when I woke up, I uploaded the video, then I went to bed, and I woke up this morning. Of course, we got the storm outside, so my meeting's going to be canceled. But I look at the comments on the video, and boy, I had a lot of comments. And of course, people either loved what I had to say and were in total agreement, and people were even sharing personal stories from their life about how they've known someone that's had this happen to them, or they've had it happen to them in their life. And then there's other people on the other side of the coin that they're the one I'm talking about in the video. Essentially, in the video, I talk about how it's best to avoid marrying people with certain qualities or certain traits. The main one that was focused on in that video was issues about mental illness and mental health. Even if it's not your fault that you have that, it dealt with that. And of course there's people that are victims that have these traumas in their life, and of course a lot of those were upset. And I'm not trying to hurt any of those people that have already been hurt by any means, of course, but there was a comment that really stuck out to me, and someone said they deserve to be loved. And I want to respond to that comment of they deserve to be loved. And what I want to say is that's absolutely correct. I am in 100% total agreement. Everyone deserves to be loved, whether you've done some bad things in this world, whether you've had bad things done to you and you're dealing with them. Everyone definitely deserves to be loved. And of course, if you're a religious person, that's what you believe. You believe that to be true. We're called to love everyone, despite things that maybe they've done in the past, or things how they're broken on the inside. And essentially, we've all done bad things. If you've been on this world any amount of time, we're all sinners, and we've all had bad things done to us that we're dealing with. And of course, you can marry what you think is the perfect person, and maybe it's full of tragedy and problems, and you just don't get along for whatever reason. Even though they seem to be, you thought you're marrying the perfect person that's giving you the best chance at a successful life and a successful marriage. Even then, there's no guarantees that things might not work out. We're not guaranteed happiness in this world. We're, at least in America, you're supposed to be guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. So everyone deserves to be loved. But you know who else deserves to be loved? Short, fat, bald men. They deserve to be loved. But women aren't lining up to marry those guys, are they? But those guys deserve love. Guys that don't make a lot of money, they deserve to be loved. But again, are the women lining up to marry those guys? Of course not. And I don't necessarily blame those women. They're doing what women are supposed to do. Most women, and a lot of people, even men these days, they just want to be taken care of. So those are things to think about. I used to work with people that were mentally handicapped. One of my first jobs, my job in college, my first couple of years, I worked with people that were classified as mildly mentally retarded. And basically my job was to kind of hang out with these guys, give them a good time. And I tried to do so with compassion, understanding, and love, of course. And these were guys, they were classified as mildly mentally retarded. They weren't confined to a wheelchair. These were guys that could talk, could have a conversation. They had what you'd call basically low IQ. IQ like in the 70s or something like that. So they could actually hold down jobs. Some of these people, they were bright enough to where if you talk to them, you might not even know right away that there's anything wrong with them at all. And there's a lot of people in society that are that fit this category of mildly mentally retarded, but they've never went to a doctor and had a formal diagnosis. Usually it's the person they say, oh, well, that guy's a little slow, or he's not that bright, or she's a little bit ditzy. These are people that have low IQ. But those people absolutely deserve to be treated with kindness, warmth, compassion, and love. Now, I'm not saying you should marry those people. That's the big difference I was getting at. And I do these videos to help you, to help give you things that you can use in your real life. And you kind of have to watch that previous video. And I'm not taking back anything I said in that video, even though this seems like kind of a counter to it. I'm not trying to disagree with anything I said in that video, but this is just expanding upon it. And it's kind of like what's been in the news this past week. They opened a sperm bank for HIV positive people to give sperm to. Now, maybe people that have HIV, even if they've done something wrong to get that, they still probably deserve to be treated with love and compassion. But that doesn't mean that you should go inseminate yourself with HIV positive sperm. That's absolute insanity. So you have to understand these things, and you have to think about it these ways in a practical sense. And going back to everyone deserves to be loved, you deserve to be loved. That's just the way it is. You deserve to be loved, regardless of whatever you've done in your life that isn't right. You're still breathing, so you can probably still, even if there's some things you can't totally make up for, to some extent you can correct course and try and right the wrongs and do better next time. So whatever you've done, you still deserve to be loved, and whatever has happened to you, you deserve to be loved, even if you're a victim and now you have either a physical problem or a psychological problem as a result of it. But look, like what I said in that last video, it's not the most politically correct thing. I knew saying something like that in this climate, it's going to be controversial. And think about it, a year or two ago, Tony Robbins, who also tries to give people information to empower them, regardless of what's happened to them or whatever they've done in the past, he's trying to help people move forward and empower them. But when he tried to help people with certain issues, rather than try and get into what he's trying to do to see if it works, you had the Me Too movement and all these women's groups attack him, try and absolutely destroy the man's career. But he was giving people information to try and empower them and move them forward, as opposed to certain other things that's just going to hold him back. He was doing what he knows how to do, and they tried to make him suffer as a consequence from it, the Me Too people and these women's groups. But going back to you deserve to be loved, I want to leave you with one key concept that is extremely important. We all want to be loved, right? That's one of the most basic human needs, and that's why so many people, they want to become either a rock star or they want to become a celebrity of some kind or whatever. It's because of that drive for love and attention. It's very basic stuff, but here's a key concept. In order to get love, you have to give love. And a lot of people don't realize that. I've dealt with a lot of guys that were doing dating and online dating, and they would just expect women, they'd show up and they expect women to just supposed to love them, even though they haven't really given anything to the woman. They haven't given any real reason. So to really be loved, you have to give love. And sometimes even then, hey, it doesn't work out. But that's one of the most important things. You're never going to get real love if you're not giving love yourself. And the other thing I want to say is, make sure to surround yourself with positive, loving people that love you and want the best for you. Every morning I wake up next to my wife and son, so I'm very blessed in that regard that I have people very close to me that love me, and even my family, my mom and dad, or just a lot of other people. I'm very blessed. So remember, you got to surround yourself to, whether it's friends, family, people that ultimately care about you. And that was also part of the reason I did that last message. If you care about someone, you tell them things that maybe they don't want to hear. Even if they're going to marry someone, if you know that, like, hey, they're marrying a prostitute, and this, like I talked about in the previous video, I've known guys that have went to third world countries and married literal prostitutes. Now, I'm not saying that those women are bad people, but when you care about someone, you try and say, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, because ultimately you're only doing it not because you want to quell that person's happiness, but you want what's best for them. So I'm going to leave you with those couple key concepts after all this talk. In order to get love, you have to give love, and surround yourself with positive people that are going to give you a good energy, and people that ultimately love you, and meaning they care about what happens to you. So, okay, go ahead, check out the other videos if you're going to stay inside, but if you're somewhere where the weather permits, go outside and have a good time.